Before we get started drilling this sheath, the second sheath, I've actually drawn on this one to show roughly, we're not even going to finish this sheath, I already have the other sheath finished. This kind of just crudely shows the knife outline. That gives you an idea on how far we're going to space the eyelets out, and those two holes would be for the tech lock, but it just gives you an idea. All of those marks wouldn't normally be on here. These that are on the outside where I just rough cut to shape, we're going to grind all that off and that won't show, and if there's any left we'll just take some alcohol or something and get that off of there, so that won't be any problem. I started to use these 1, 2, 3 blocks. There's 1 inch high, 2 inch high, 3 inch high. They come with all kinds of holes. Some of the holes are threaded, some are not. They're just as handy as can be. I used to use square pipe, similar to this, for different drilling blocks, and probably still do have several of them sitting on my bench here, but I've just started to use these 1, 2, 3 blocks. They're just as handy as can be. I keep one on my drill press and use that, and then I keep one on my bench for holes to knock out pins. These are on sale all the time from MSC, Enco, any of the industrial suppliers. We carry them. We sell them by a pair, actually, with bolts in as a poor man's file guide. They're hardened. They're 10, 12 bucks a piece. If that, they're just as handy as can be. We're going to use that for a drill stand. And basically what we're going to do is line up a hole there and drill this way. Now kydex, when you drill it, really wants to climb up the bit. You'll see it, and in fact we'll let that happen on one of these. But it grabs hold. If you jam it in fast, you'll find that kydex will just climb right up the bit, tear out the hole, and you'll be out a $6 or $7 piece of kydex or bolt-on, whatever your material is. And so when you're drilling it, you really want to get close to the bit, hold it down with a lot of pressure, go in slow, and be aware when it breaks through. That's when it really wants to grab and climb up the bit. So let's see if we can show you one, and I won't hold it very tight, and we'll watch it. Probably see how it started to climb up there. That's what happens when you don't hold it down. It just climbs. It climbs right up. And now that didn't make the hole too oblong, but sometimes it'll get all crazy in there. So when you're drilling, you really want to be careful about holding that down. So I'll tend to get right up by there. Be careful and take my time to break through. Remove the material. Slowly, and you see that it didn't climb, and we get a lot better hole for it. So we'll drill these other holes. And I wanted to climb a little bit, but I had a good hold on it. Nice and slow. You could feel that it almost wanted to grip. And I just slowed down and let it remove material. There's no material to grab hold. It's not going to want to climb the bit as bad. So we get a nice clean hole that way. Now we'll step over and show you how we can grind this to shape. Now this stuff grinds like a dream. It goes really fast. And you can shape this. You know, your sheath should look just as good as the knife. If you happen to find yourself at a knife show, and you'll see one guy's got a knife out for, let's say, 150 bucks, and another guy a couple tables down has another knife for 150 bucks, and they look pretty similar. The one with the nicer sheath is going to sell first, and that's just how it works. Sheath is the first and last impression of a knife, so it's alright to do a good job on your sheath. So now we're going to step over to the grinder, and we'll show you how we grind this to shape. One last thing, this is a right hand sheath. right hand carry, so that would go like this on my hip. What we're going to do is we're going to turn that off, and we'll see a little black dot right there, and that's where the tip of the knife is. And we're going to put a little water drain hole, and we only want to drill through the back side so it doesn't show in the front. So we're going to be pretty careful about this. We're going to put one little hole right by the tip of the blade. That's all we need to do. I just drilled through the back. There's no drill hole through the front. And that's if any water gets trapped in this, because this can get pretty watertight when we get that all squeezed up. Water will drain right out through that drain hole. Alright, we'll step over to the grinder now, and we'll get set up on the grinder and show you how we grind this. Alright, we're at the grinder now. I mounted a 120 grit belt onto the grinder. And what we're going to do is we're going to shape this quite a bit. It's amazing how fast this goes. It grinds very nicely. It's a joy to grind this and shape it. I happen to have an 8-inch wheel. You can use a 10, 4, 6, 8, whatever you want to use. Now, this has a lot of leftover stuff, burr from the bandsaw where we cut it. But we'll go ahead and get started on this. You can see how fast that material actually comes off of there. Now, when you make a sheath, you don't want a sharp point coming up here, so if you bend over, your side goes into a sharp point there, so I always tend to round that off a little bit, a little decorative detail on that, and we'll clean that up in a bit. Same thing goes for the bottom of the sheath, for the sheath tip. Now, leather, that's one thing, and you'll see most leather will have kind of a sharp point there, but on a kydex one, that just doesn't bend when it pokes into your leg or something like that. So I always tend to knock off the point on that, and I'll show you in a minute. Okay, I've got the holes pretty close lined up to the edge. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this. You get the idea. When you're grinding it, keep the holes a little bit farther away so the eyelets don't overlap on the outside. I got a little close on that, but that's fine. Don't be afraid to put a little decorative detail in there. You want to be able to grab the knife. If it's in there too far, you can't grab it. So we have this knife, and it's just sharp, but be careful. So you want to be able to reach down and grab it, and that's why I put that cutaway in there. And so you're able to, I want to pull this out and cut myself, but pull that out and grab that. So now we've got these sharp edges, got burr, chaff material all over. We'll blow this out inside out with the compressed air, but let's clean this edge up. So what we're going to do on this is we're We're actually going to burnish this, and I do this with leather all the time too. I'm going to take this belt and I'm going to turn it around. This happens to be a Klingspor J-Flex. That part doesn't matter. Just a cloth belt on the back of it, and a lot of belts have that. So now we've got the cloth belt there. What we're going to do is we're going to use this cloth to actually burnish and to take off the edge. So we'll go along the edge like that real quick. And what it does is it tends to melt this stuff. Now you want to get rid of all of this kind of chaff that's in there, or that'll melt right into it and you'll be fighting that. So we'll get just that little bit off and we'll clean up the rest. Get the excess off where you can, and then we'll burnish the rest out of there. Now the edge has been really knocked off on that, and you can take that as far as you want, but it took off the sharp edge, made it look a little better on the cosmetics, and that's what you would do. Now we have that pretty well shaped, as you can see on here. This goes like that. Now we'd come and put the eyelets in there, and we'd bolt on or screw on the tech lock, and this one happens to be a small one. It would go right in there, and drain hole. Sheath's pretty cleaned up. A little bit of chaff there to clean up, but that's just like anything. Get rid of the dust out of the inside, and that's the part of the grinding.